Well, hi everybody, it's Mrs. Perryman. Hope you're doing well and hope everybody has recovered from the awful polar weather that we've had recently, and hope you're able to have gotten warmed up and able to enjoy some sunshine. Goodness, that was some rough going there for a while, but anyway, I hope everybody's good and looking forward to seeing everybody very soon, and got some fun things for you this week. If you haven't already been here this week, we're making homemade sausage, and I actually over the summer was fortunate enough to be able to purchase a sausage stuffer, and then I've just ordered some pig casings or pork casings that we're going to put our sausage in and actually stuff those and make our link sausage. And then after that, we will be making on Friday homemade focaccia bread, and we'll use our beautiful sausage to cook up on our focaccia bread. So I'm excited for you guys to be here, and I think it's going to be a fun time for us. And just a little bit of a couple of announcements. We are wrapping up that long section that we've been working on: fruits and vegetables, salads and dressings, and then sandwiches and pizza. And so this is the last of that. And so I've been telling you that for a while now, that we are finishing that up. And so Friday, Friday, February 26th, will be the last day that I will take assignments on those particular units. So if you don't have those done, please let's get those whipped out, get those finished, and get those turned in, and so I can get those graded and we can get that posted on your transcript, because the clock is ticking away. We got to keep moving. And so speaking of keeping moving, we're going to be moving on to our next section, which is going to be potatoes. And you will find that on Moodle under grains, legumes, and pasta, I believe is how it is listed. And so that section will be on there. Well, by the time this video plays, it'll be on there, so you guys can get on there and check out the questions. There's some questions and some vocab words for you that, as usual, you'll need to have those done by Tuesday of next week. And so we'll keep moving on through our sections. So I'm going to play the PowerPoint for this section here, except I just canceled it. Sorry about that. There we go. Go. Sorry, a little technical difficulty here. All right, so we're going to talk about potatoes. And man, potatoes are one of my favorite things to grow. Right now is the time, if you're a gardener, and order your potatoes now, and it won't be very long. We'll be getting those planted in the garden, and they are so much fun to watch them grow, and it's even more fun to dig them up after they have grown. And gosh, they come in so many colors. There's just right here, those are the Yukon Gold or yellow potatoes, and then there's the red potatoes. There's even some purple Peruvian type potatoes. There's white potatoes. There's all kinds of different colors of potatoes, and lots of different sizes, which we'll talk about, but a lot of that has to do with the length of time that they're allowed to grow. Anyway, but they're pretty easy to grow once you kind of figure out how to grow them. Whenever I first started growing potatoes, it took me, the first year I planted them, I did not have any luck at all. But then over the next year, I discovered how to amend my soil and how to have nice fluffy soil, because I need that. I had a really good potato crop. But people grow potatoes in just soil, just in the dirt. You can also grow them in straw, which was a fun way that I did actually grow them like this, and you just layer them in a tall wire cage, like fencing. And I just made a round tube out of this square cage. And then I layered in straw, and I put the potatoes in, and then the plant would grow out through the wire cage, and you could harvest it in an upright fashion as opposed to them being planted in rows in the ground. So if you didn't have a whole lot of room for them to take up in a flower bed or something like that, you could grow them upright, which is pretty fun to do too. So anyway, but potatoes are really versatile. My gosh, they if you think about potatoes on a menu, they turn up in breakfast, they turn up at lunch, they turn up at dinner, and so you can do tons of things with potatoes, and well, everybody likes them. So anyway, let's talk about potatoes today. All right, so potatoes, something interesting about potatoes is they're a tuber. And if you've seen them grow before, the actual potato grows underground. Okay, and then the green plant grows on the top, and that's where it gets from the sun, the nutrients from the sun and the chlorophyll, all of that happens. But below the surface is where the potatoes grow. And the thing that makes it a tuber is that it is capable of producing a new plant. So if you've ever planted potatoes before, you know you can cut up a potato or cut it in halves or fourths and then plant those potatoes if they have eyes sprouted. And then they'll actually grow a new potato plant. And that is the definition of a tuber, is that it's capable of producing a new plant. And when it sprouts, I don't know if you've ever seen like a bag of potatoes where it had all those little webby things that started growing out of the potato. That's actually roots, and they're actually capable of growing some more potatoes. So you could plant those and grow some more. Some little interesting tidbits here about potatoes. They are native to North and South America, and they were taken to other parts of the world by explorers. And so in the 15th century, they were taken from the Americas back to Europe. In many countries, you know, potatoes are considered a staple food. And there have been lots of diets based on potatoes. You think back in history, the Irish potato famine, and so it's a pretty important crop. In fact, it's the most important non-cereal crop, not rice and not wheat, but the most important not cereal crop in the world. And so again, because there's so many things that we can do with potatoes, that it really is a staple in many cultures and diets. Okay, so again, there's lots of different kinds of potatoes, lots of different colors. The way that we categorize potatoes is by starch and by moisture content. And that's one of the things, you know, if you're thinking about, if you're on a diet, for instance, you talk about starch being bad, and that's that carbohydrate component. And that's the thing, you know, your body converts carbohydrates to sugar. And if you're wanting to watch the sugar that you eat in your diet, you are wanting to watch carbohydrates, or starch, as it may also be called. Okay, so sometimes potatoes get excuse me, a bad rap because of that. But there are some lower starch potatoes that might be a healthier choice, so you can still enjoy your potato and not feel like you are going to need to let your belt out a loop here. Or yeah, anyway, and moisture content also, which will affect the way that it cooks. So there are different moisture contents of different kinds of potatoes too. And so those are things to consider with the different recipes, which we'll get to here in just a minute. So how long do you want to keep a potato around? You know, potatoes we tend to probably as Americans, we tend to keep them until they start to sprout. Um, and so and then sometimes we'll cut that sprout off, and sometimes the potato is too soft and we have to throw it away. But there's an ideal time limit on potatoes, and the longer you keep them, the starchier they get. Okay. So kind of hold that thought for a minute. There's 3 categories of potatoes, and this is probably a really good test question, by the way. Okay, there's 3 categories of potatoes. There's high starch with low moisture. There's medium starch with medium moisture, and there's low starch with high moisture. And all of those things are important to specific types of cooking. And so we're going to talk about that. Okay, so high starch, low moisture potatoes, they are dense and firm, and that has to do with the starch, and that they're dry. So as it cooks, it tends to swell, and that's what makes it fluffy. So think about like a fluffy baked potato, for instance. Okay. Or French fries. Now, French fries are often made from this kind of potato, which would be like an Idaho potato, which Idaho is a russet potato. Idaho is a kind of russet potato. Sweet potato and yam. So have you guys ever had fried sweet potatoes? I think those are, man, those are good. But they actually suggest that you keep these no longer than 30 days. Because remember, the longer you keep them, the more starch it will have. And so they're already high starch. And so, so ideally we are, especially in a restaurant type situation, we're only buying what we can use up in a set amount of time. So we're not having to throw stuff away. And so we want to keep these longer than 30 days. So for sure, we don't want to buy more than a 30-day supply. Okay, sweet potatoes and yams. Now here's a little bit of trivia for you. They are not the same thing. Who knew, right? So sweet potatoes are sweet potatoes and yams are yams. Okay, and they're not even related, which is interesting as well. So yams are from Asia, and sweet potatoes are from the Americas. But we'll see candied yams, or or we might see sweet potatoes, on we see those kind of in the fall. Thanksgiving in particular makes me think of that. But I always thought that they were the same thing, but they're not. So there you go. And there are different colors too, and I have seen the different colors. And sometimes you'll see them and they're orangey, and sometimes you'll see them and they're more of a red color. Okay, there's even white ones. So anyway, if you haven't checked that situation out, if you ever get the chance to go to a big market, like for instance, Whole Food, for instance, they'll have a whole display of all different kinds of sweet potatoes and yams that would be really fun to look at the different colors and kinds. Okay, so here is medium starch, medium moisture type potatoes. Now this is one of my really favorites, and this is the one I grow in my garden. And of course, I grow a couple other ones too, but this is my favorite one to grow, and it's that Yukon Gold. It has a thin skin, and it has a real kind of a buttery flesh inside. It is really good for boiling and steaming and mashing. And I really like these. These are also ones that you don't want to keep longer than 30 days. Again, it's developing more starch, which will cause this to cause them to start breaking down if you're cooking them more. But I like the texture and the taste of these. The thing about these though is they're not really consistent in size and shape, whereas when you think about an Idaho potato, those nice bakers with the consistent size and shape, and they look pretty on a plate with a steak or something like that. These are kind of random in size and shape, and so they would be best for something that you're not going to actually see the whole potato. So if you're doing mashed potatoes, or maybe like scallop potatoes or something like that, where you're not actually seeing the the form of the potato. They work super for that. And again, they have that buttery, creamy texture, which is quite yummy. Okay, and here's the low starch, high moisture. And these are new potatoes. And these are really good for boiling or steaming or roasting them in some way, like on a sheet pan or something like that. And these are small potatoes. You can dig them really when they're really small, like the size of a marble, or let them get bigger, more like the size of maybe an orange even. I mean, they'll get big. But ideally, about probably the size of a golf ball is about my favorite size to dig those. And they're high in moisture, and they're a little bit sweeter tasting maybe than just a regular potato. Low starch though, so if you're thinking about that starch content, you know, if you're watching that, that might be something to think about there. Okay, all right, here's some trivia for you. Why are sweet potatoes, yams, and russet potatoes suited to baking, pureeing, and frying? Now, what did we say? Some of those, the things that we were looking for in a potato if we were going to bake them and fry them. Do you guys remember? High in starch, low in moisture, remember? Yep. Okay, so selecting and storing potatoes. Again, they do not have an unlimited shelf life. So you're going to get those in and get them in and out of the restaurant in a hurry, or get them in and out of the house in a hurry. The best place to store those, cool, dry place, probably not the refrigerator, because the refrigerator is cool and damp, okay, or cold and damp. And what we want is cool and dry. And so the coolest place that you can think of in your kitchen, and the driest place too. Okay, here is, this kind of talks about russets 30 days, yams 2 weeks, sweet potatoes 1 week. So you got to keep those things moving to have them at optimum freshness. Anybody ever seen a green potato before, or had a potato that had the skin kind of had a green cast to it? Well, that is pretty common actually. And what is happening is as the plant grows, those tubers start to get closer and closer to the surface of the dirt line. And plants, if you think about how plants grow, that is with the chlorophyll is stored in the leaves, and that's from sunlight. And so this is what is happening to this potato, is it was close to the surface or had broken the surface. And so it has started to take on chlorophyll. Well, that in the potato is actually called solanine, and solanine is actually toxic. And so if you have a potato that has a green cast to it, we suggest that you peel those to remove that, and then you can consume the potato. And then down here, all these sprouts, you know, whenever your science project starts to happen, all of these sprouts here also contain solanine. So it is suggested that you remove these if possible. But honestly, by the time your potato is doing that, it's really probably too soft and starchy to really have much culinary use. And so by then, maybe cut it up and plant it. So anyway, but that is solanine, and so that's why they're green. All right, so 2 categories for cooking potatoes. Okay, one is the single stage technique, and that is where it just takes one particular type of cooking to get it to its finished state, or how you would put it on a plate, for instance. So like a baked potato, you know, we put that in the oven and we bake it, and then we put it on the plate. There's nothing else we have to do. So that would be considered a single stage technique. A multi-stage technique is that we're going to do more than one type of cooking technique to it. So think about I don't know, like twice baked potatoes, for instance. So we bake the potato and then we scoop all the flesh out, and then we add a bunch of cheese and sour cream and chive and butter and all that yummy stuff. And then we put it back in the shell. Then we put it back in the oven. And so that would be two techniques. Another thing that you might see is something called lyonnaise, which is actually, to me, is like your Saturday morning fried potatoes. It's just kind of souped up a little bit with onion. A lot of times, if you have leftover potatoes from another dish, if you had boiled potatoes, then you'll fry those up in your pan with some onion. Well, that's lyonnaise, basically. So that would be an example of a multi-stage technique where the potatoes were boiled or cooked in some way, and then we moved them to a skillet, and now we're pan frying them in another way. So that would be two cooking or multiple stage technique rather. Okay, so something that's called in casserole potato dishes. So if you're making it in a good old casserole pan like this, scallop potatoes, my goodness, I think that is a holiday special right there. It seems like at family dinners and things like that, everybody wants scallop potatoes. And oftentimes the potatoes are pre-cooked, or you may cook the potatoes in a skillet with like your cream sauce, and then pour that into your baking dish, and then bake it more in your dish. And so those would be that they are cooked and served in that same dish. So actually, I cook mine in a skillet and then put them in the casserole. Okay, but that tasty liquid in there kind of thickens and it browns. Sometimes it has cheese on top. It's pretty delicious. Lyonnaise, as we were talking about, to me again is more like that fried potatoes. These pretty frequently are cooked or boiled or baked, roasted in some way, and then they're sliced. And again, they're added to a skillet and then fried along onions. Sometimes you'll see bacon with that, maybe cooked in bacon grease and bacon crumbles, or sausage with that, and then the onions inside. But that is lyonnaise. Latkes. I think on your Moodle this time, I put Babish on there with him making the latkes. And this is actually it's really like just like a little potato pancake, and it has a little bit of onion in it, so it's got some flavor to it. A little salt and pepper. Oftentimes there'll be a dipping sauce, or traditionally it's served with applesauce or sour cream. But is a tasty little snack. Anyway, it might be kind of fun to watch. Like I said, I put the link to Babish's demonstration of latkes. It's kind of like a fancy hash brown, kind of like that, but they're kind of fun to make. And anyway, just thought I would throw that in there so you can see what that was. Okay. All right. Well, we kind of went fast through that, but anyway, we have made it. So I put some things out on Moodle this time, and it is listed under potatoes. And there are some questions on there. I think there's 3 questions and a few vocab words. And so if you will please get on there and check that out. And as usual, you'll just upload those to me and I'll get those graded for you. So I guess we'll sign off here. It was good visiting with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on your next scheduled day to be here. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.